There's a country where ancient stones align with the stars, where underground chambers hold carvings no historian can read, and where military personnel reported a landed spacecraft in the middle of a forest. And the government said almost nothing. The United Kingdom is one of the most studied, most documented nations on Earth. And yet, buried beneath its green hills and foggy forests are mysteries that have resisted every explanation thrown at them. Today, we look at 4 of them. Everyone knows Stonehenge, but knowing its name is not the same as understanding it, and the more scientists study it, the less they seem to agree on what it actually is. The sarsen stones at the center weigh up to 25 tons each. They were transported from Marlborough Downs, roughly 25 miles away, sometime around 2500 BC. The smaller bluestones came from the Silbury Hills in Wales, over 150 miles. No wheels, no iron tools, no written records explaining why. What we do know is that Stonehenge is astronomically precise. On the summer solstice, the rising sun aligns perfectly with the heel stone and floods the center of the monument with light. This wasn't accidental. Whoever built it understood the sky at a level that shouldn't have been possible for the era we assign them to. But here's what the textbooks rarely mention. Stonehenge wasn't built once. It was built, dismantled, and rebuilt across roughly 1,500 years by multiple different cultures. The monument we see today is only the final version of something that kept evolving, for reasons we still don't know. A temple, an observatory, a burial ground, a calendar. Archaeologists have argued all of these. None of them fully explains the effort involved. The biggest stone at the site weighs around 30 tons and stands over 9 meters tall. Moving it without modern machinery would be an extraordinary engineering challenge even today. How a Neolithic society coordinated the labor, the logistics, and the astronomical knowledge required remains one of the most compelling unanswered questions in all of archaeology. 30 miles from Stonehenge, there is a hill that isn't a hill. Silbury Hill is the largest man-made mound in Europe. Built around 2400 BC, it rises 40 meters from the flat Wiltshire Plain and covers over 2 hectares at its base. From a distance, it looks completely natural. Up close, the scale of it is almost incomprehensible. Archaeologists have tunneled into it 3 times, in 1776, 1849, and 1968. Each time, they found the same thing: nothing. No burial chamber, no artifacts, no body, no inscription. Just carefully constructed layers of gravel, clay, turf, and chalk, built in a series of step platforms that were then filled in to create the smooth mound we see today. The construction required an estimated 18 million man-hours of labor. For a society with no writing, no metal tools, and no known central government, this is a staggering investment of resources into something that, as far as we can tell, contains nothing and serves no obvious practical purpose. Some researchers have proposed it was a monument to an ancestor. Others believe it was a representation of the goddess of the earth. A newer theory suggests it may have been built at the center of a ritual landscape, surrounded by water in certain seasons, making it appear to rise from a lake. But no one actually knows. Silbury Hill was built by people who left no explanation. And after thousands of years of trying, we still haven't found one. In 1742, workers laying a new market surface in the town of Royston broke through the ground and discovered a small, perfectly circular pit. When they lowered a boy down on a rope, he found himself inside a bell-shaped chamber, carved entirely out of chalk, covered floor to ceiling in medieval carvings. The carvings are extraordinary. Saints, crucifixions, a figure that may be Richard the Lionheart, symbols that appear in Templar iconography, and scenes that don't clearly match any known religious tradition. The chamber is roughly 5 meters wide and 8 meters tall, cut with obvious skill and intention. And yet, there is no record of it being built. No deed, no church document, no historical mention of its construction anywhere. Who carved it, and when, remains genuinely unknown. The most popular theory connects it to the Knights Templar, whose main road between two of their English preceptories passed directly through Royston. The cave may have been a private place of worship, hidden from view during the period of Templar persecution in the early 14th century. But this is speculation. The style of the carvings suggests multiple artists working at different times, possibly across centuries. What makes Royston Cave unsettling isn't just the mystery of its origin. It's that something this significant, this carefully made, could exist for hundreds of years beneath a busy market town, with no one knowing it was there. Whatever it was built for, whoever carved those walls, they succeeded completely in keeping it secret. In late December 1980, something landed in Rendlesham Forest in Suffolk. That's not a theory. That's the testimony of multiple United States Air Force personnel stationed at the nearby RAF Woodbridge Base, a NATO installation at the height of the Cold War. On the night of December 26th, security patrol officers reported a glowing object descending into the trees. They followed it into the forest. What they encountered, according to their written statements, was a craft of some kind. Triangular, metallic, covered in strange markings. One of the officers, Sergeant Jim Peniston, claims he touched the surface and later transcribed the symbols he saw into his notebook. Deputy Base Commander Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt investigated the site the following night with a team, a Geiger counter, and a recorder. The tape he made that night still exists. On it, you can hear trained military personnel struggling to describe what they're seeing in real time. Lights maneuvering in ways no aircraft should be able to. Radiation readings spiking at the landing site. Beams of light dropping from the sky into the forest. The UK Ministry of Defence investigated and officially concluded the incident posed no threat to national security. They released almost nothing else. No aircraft were reported missing. No meteorological event accounts for what the witnesses described. The men involved were not fringe personalities. They were career military officers with security clearances, trained observers, reporting under their own names. Rendlesham remains the most credible and most documented UFO encounter in British history. 30 years later, some of the witnesses were still asking for answers. They never got them. And in the silence left by governments and institutions that refuse to explain what happened in that forest, the question just keeps growing.